Vortex here, welcome to my review of the Kbear. As you can see, this is the KS1, which is a single dynamic driver per side. They do have like a brother or sister model, which is the KS2, which is a little older than this and is a hybrid with a balanced armature. I will talk about that one in a separate video as it is technically a little bit different. But yeah, Kbear did send this out to me to review. I was not paid anything for this video and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. And yet the box is a little beaten up, but the condition is fine of the internals, so it's not a problem. And yet let's get into the video. Mine is the black one, no mic. I always pick the no mic versions because it's basically less to go wrong. And plus I don't make many calls with phones, so I typically pick black one. You can get this in white with mic or no mic. Nothing there, nothing there. This is a single DD, but it does use a dual magnetic driver. Some specs, as you can see in here, as usual, it's a 2-pin, 20Hz to 20 kHz, which is perfectly fine. Like I said, it uses a dual magnetic dynamic. Cable length, which is 1.2 meters. There is a small typo, which hopefully can probably get fixed, another time. Sensitivity is 109 decibels, which is fine. Impedance of 16 ohms. These was very easy to power. I had no issues whatsoever. And obviously the cable type is the standard 3.5mm, and there's just some address info. So it's in Shenzhen, and that's just the email address. And let's get into the contents. So I'm going to quickly run over the contents. Obviously you saw the outer packaging. The earbuds come sat in this Kbear. Quick user guide, which I'll just quickly skim over. It's in Chinese and it's in English. Obviously you can pause the video if you want to read it. Warranty card information, sorry, and just the QR code. In the packaging you get small and large tips. It comes in mediums already pre-fitted, so you get 3 pairs of tips. You get the cable, which I'll show you more in a second, and you get the two earbuds. Mine obviously are the black ones, if it's going to focus. 2-pin, which is good. Beats MMCX any day of the week. States, if it's going to focus. Obviously that's the right. Same thing for left. And yeah, I'm going to quickly I'll show you the cable. So this is the included cable. So right angle connector, which I do like, and it's metal. Strain relief. There's no real kinks in the cable. Only negative really is it can get tangled quite easy, but if you wrap it around your fingers or something before you pull it in a case, you should be fine. But yeah, it's a good enough. It's included. It seems to work. It works fine from my experience. Strain relief there. The cables are a little on the thin side, but this is a budget-based item, so I'm not surprised. There's L, or the other one says R. The ear guide works perfectly fine, and as you can see there, it actually covers the connector. So for example, just got the left one. There you go, that's it. So that's just how it sits. But as an included cable, as you say, it looks a little thin, but it seems to work fine. And yeah, actually onto the earphone part of the review. So Vortex, what are these actually like? Not bad actually at all, surprisingly enough. It's actually going to comfort. I always like to do comfort first and how they fit first, because that's kind of critical. They could sound, in theory, if they sound amazing, but if the comfort is really bad, you're not going to listen to them. That's how I see it. But yeah, it's going to comfort. Basically like the KS2 model, which is older, even though the number is higher. It's the same kind of fit. It works perfectly fine for me. If I can show you, there's two vents. One's for the dynamic. I presume the other one is to help release pressure, so you don't get that vacuum effect. Obviously there's the branding. quite subtle, kind of a goldy bronze colour, 2-pin, and as I've already shown you with the cable, it fits over the top. Also, you can use aftermarket cables, but as you say, it's 2-pin, so you won't have any issues. Just normal silicon tips. Just take this off. So yeah, as you can see, you can't really see the driver. Keeps the dust out, and earwax or anything like that. Nozzle to keep the tips on. Build quality seems fine. You can't see the driver at all, which is a little shame because it's good to see what you've paid for, but put that back on. But comfort and the fitment of these is fine. Sound. So what do these sound like? These have a mild V shape, is probably the best way to describe it. So nothing's really aggressive. So let's talk about the low end. It has mild kind of mid bass. It has mild sub bass. It's there. They're both there. They're not really bass heavy earphones, but they have enough warmth to them. They kind of got the balance right, I would say. I kind of prefer them. How these sound over the KS2. But I will do a separate video on that. But yeah, back to the low end. I think it's quite good. The decay is fine. The actual texture is fine for what these are. The driver they use seems quite perfectly competent for the price range. It seems okay. But the low end of these is actually pretty good. It's got the thump when you need it. It's not over the top. It's quite controlled, so I can't really moan about that. And I say V shape. The vocals on these are quite fine. It seems like there's a peak further up to make it the actual V shape. But vocals, male and female, both sound quite fine for the price. They sound quite good. Power in them as well, I had no issues. And isolation, no real issues at all. But yeah, mids, perfectly fine really. As you say, it seems like a mild V shape. I have not seen how these graph, so I'm not quite sure what the graph would look like. But from what I can tell, and with me throwing a few hours on these, but vocals are quite clear, like no issues with vocals at all. They're not veiled or anything like that. And that corresponds to male and female vocals. Male ones can sound a little thin, a little bit, but it's not really a big deal at all. But yeah, female vocals sound fine. They're not shouty. They're not like in your face, which sounds fine. Yeah, like upper mids, lower treble sounds fine. Doesn't seem aggressive, which is like the typical kind of Chinese IEM tuning where they have the elevated upper mids to make female vocals stand out. These don't sound like they have that. They're not recessed or nothing like that. They're just not pushed forward, which I personally do like. Treble, again, I think they played it quite safe with the treble or the treble. It's got the treble detail that you want. It's not like they're not bright earphones, which again I do like. I don't like things overly bright because it's just fatiguing, and it can sound kind of artificial. Obviously, of course, you can always use some sort of EQ or equalizer. But yeah, the instruments sounded clear, as in all sorts of instruments. I tried this with pop, dance, psytrance to try to see what these like with fast music, and they seem to do it perfectly fine. Separation seems fine as well. Only something maybe complex faster music may throw it off a touch, but for the price they are perfectly competent. IEMs, again, single dynamic driver, which I personally prefer. Kind of keeping it simple, in my opinion, does help it sound more coherent. Yeah, not much. They don't really do much wrong, to be honest. They're quite a good tuning. But yeah, the overall tonality of these is good. They say no issues with power in them. Sound stage isn't really big. It's enough. They're not mega closed in, but the stage is enough. Same for the imaging. The imaging is okay. Yeah. So very kind of basic build, kind of the same as the KS2. As you can see, it can leave fingerprints, but that's just a problem when you use a gloss black kind of plastic. Probably the white colour might help with that. Very simple design that fit me perfectly fine. I had no issues with discomfort whatsoever. And yeah, let's get on to the actual conclusion. So my conclusion of the Kbear KS1s, I think for their the price range, these work perfectly fine. They're actually quite good. I do like their single dynamic driver, so they do have that kind of tonality, and they do have a very gentle V shape. It's probably the best way to describe it. The tuning I found is quite safe, but because of that, it probably covers the mass market. I think they've done quite a good job of these, and I do prefer them over the KS2 a little bit, but that'll be a separate video. I will talk about that. And yet these do get a recommendation from me. They perform perfectly fine. The build quality is fine. The cable can get a little bit tangled and is a little bit on the thin side, but it's not really a big deal. And yeah, they're not good. Overall, they work perfectly fine, and I'm quite happy with them. I think personally, I should have probably had the white colour, because the black can show the fingerprints. But apart from that, they're quite good for the price. So yeah, thanks for watching, and take care.